Here at Reisinger, we talk about building for comfort. And on today's episode, we talk about comfort in detail. What does that mean? Everyone experiences it differently. And oftentimes we don't realize we're comfortable in our own homes until we go somewhere else and experience discomfort.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a lot of people have different experiences and priorities when it comes to comfort. And we talked through all of the components that go into making a home comfortable and how they have to be planned for. They don't just happen on accident.
Yeah.
And we engage with several different professionals, consultants to help achieve comfort. Today, we're going to talk about what makes a home comfortable. And we talk about this a lot, and I think it's been on our mind, and it's something that comes up more and more. Mm-hmm. And I think it goes hand in hand with the other topic that we talk about, which is durability. My question that I'd like to open with is like, when you think of comfort, what are like your top 2 or 3 things that like really matter to you?
For me, like immediately I think of daylight, like natural light. Mm-hmm. I don't feel comfortable in dark spaces, maybe that's what it is, but I feel better when I'm outside, and I feel like when you have that natural light, that brings comfort to me. Mm-hmm. So that's my top one, I think.
Yeah.
I think humidity level for me is critical because we live in such harsh extremes here in Central Texas, either way too humid or way too dry in the wintertime. And while being outside in those for a short period of time is fine, it's nice to have sanctuary inside that is controlled between 40 and 60%, where it's very comfortable. You don't even feel like, oh, I'm clammy, or, oh, my skin is dry, or it just feels good.
Yeah. It makes the temperature more forgiving.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my top is daylighting. Like
really?
I 100%. I feel like I can put up with a lot, but natural light is number one for me.
Yeah.
I do think sound is actually probably like a close second, because I think it's hard for me, especially thinking about if I'm like trying to work, like focus on something at home or here for that matter. I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't focus if it's loud.
And that one's a difficult one. I agree with that. Like I've been in people's houses where the sound just bounces everywhere and it's always loud, even though it's not loud.
Or they've got like a unit that's running and it's like, you can just hear air.
Yeah. Sort of the geometry, the shape of the house, the materials that go in there. I mean, you have to be very thoughtful because sometimes you don't know what it's going to sound like until it's done. Mm-hmm. Right. But that's a good point. I like that one.
Okay. So that brings up another question, which is like, can you think of a place that you've stayed or like a previous project that was beautiful but super uncomfortable?
Well, older homes that are still around and older buildings, hotels that have character and have been preserved over time, they have a hard time bringing those up to current comfort and performance standards without doing major destruction to the structure, to the property. Yeah. And so they're just naturally somewhat uncomfortable. We stayed in a hotel years ago. It's beautiful, and we thought it'd be classic experience, but it was so uncomfortable. It was noisy, and the temperature wasn't controlled. Humidity wasn't controlled. The odors were.
Oh, I didn't even think about smell.
Oh, yeah, you're totally mildew right. Smells.
Yes.
It's just.
Sick.
Yeah.
We didn't even stay our whole reservation. We left after one night.
Oh, that's bad. Actually, you know what? I think I told you this the other day. One time, my husband and I stayed at this place like out in New Mexico, and we were like, oh, this is so charming. It's this like desert home, but it was like basically just sleeping outside. And we showed up and there were like, we saw some scorpions immediately.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And my husband like got on his phone and we stayed one night and then we left. And ever since we've called it Scorpion Lodge. Yeah. So I think the bulk of the conversation that we have today is just structured around elements of comfort, what goes into making something comfortable and how we can't it doesn't happen on accident. It's something that we have to plan for. Mm-hmm. And so we've got a list here. I think we should just walk through it. Yeah. Let's start with daylighting and views. Like what's important there? How do we plan for it?
Well, I think, again, this is something we talk about a lot, but the orientation of the home on the lot. So consider if you're in the house, what do you want to see when you look out a window? And so frame those views. But also consider where the sun is going to be, at least here, right? Because that can make a house pretty uncomfortable if you're getting blasted by the sun, and that'll really heat up that space. Other considerations would be things like glare. Like if you're either at a workspace in an office or somewhere where you watch television, how is that light going to adversely affect that space? Because that affects your comfort as well.
Yeah. Yeah. If you've got a theater room, maybe you should consider when you're going to be watching stuff and where the screen is. Yeah. Or like, I think a classic example in architecture school is like, I feel like the first time designing like a house, it was like, oh, there's a breakfast room. Where should that go? And like, it's nice in your kitchen or your like breakfast nook to be able to see the sunrise.
Yeah.
Right. I think lighting is sort of like ventilation in a sense that it needs to be, it's great. We got to have fresh air. We got to have good light, but it needs to be managed. Like you said, you can't have glare. You can't have too much direct sun coming into your house, but you need to have the refracted light coming in that makes you feel like the outdoors is coming in. But you want a view to look out, big enough spaces to look out so that it feels like the inside is out. And I think that the freshest air that I can think of is something that smells like outdoor air, but is controlled and filtered so that it's healthier and easier to breathe. Right. So
pollen.
it's kind of the same thing.
What you want light without solar heat gain. You want views without.
I will say one of my favorite things is when we put skylights over showers or in bathrooms.
I agree.
It's like you're showering outdoors.
It's like you're showering outdoors, but that also has to be done thoughtfully because typically bathrooms are smaller spaces and can heat up quickly. Or you can orient a skylight away from the sun, but still get all that natural light to come in. And that's comfortable. I like that.
Yeah. And good overhangs, I think, can help too with controlling too much direct light.
Yeah. Something that house that I designed once that had a very open, like the main part of the house was one big area. And so it was really wide and we had massive overhangs. Which would have caused the middle of that to be rather dark. So we popped up the roof and put 2 rows of clerestory windows. That basically the way that I did it was we had a galvalume roof, and so which is really bright and shiny, and so the light wouldn't ever come directly through the windows because we had overhangs as well. But it would bounce off of the roof into the house and really illuminate the center of the home.
Nice.
Great.
That's cool. I don't know if you have anything else to say on that. Acoustics? Move to the next one.
I think Daniel touched on that a little bit a while ago.
Yeah. Well, I think just being mindful of large open areas that have very big flat surfaces, hard surfaces. Sometimes you can mitigate that with furniture and rugs and things like that. But it really can affect your mood, I think, if you're in a loud space, echoey hall. But also, too, I guess the components that go into it, your air conditioning system, refrigerators, things like that.
Ice makers, dishwashers.
Yeah. Be mindful of what you're choosing, what you're specifying, and where you're putting those things.
Yeah. Used to, years ago, dishwashers didn't have hardly any insulation on the outside of them. They were just a box. You slide in the cabinet. And people realized that their family rooms were next to their kitchen. They couldn't hear the TV because the dishwasher was running. So they started making these super quiet dishwashers. And now you can hardly even tell if they're running.
Yeah, and they have a little light at
pretty
the bottom.
impressive.
Right. Yeah. So creating equipment, like air conditioning equipment, that's properly located and properly managed to be quieter.
Yeah, and the way that we install them, we take that into account.
Right.
There's dampers, and we hang them versus setting them on ceiling joists and things like that, so those vibrations don't transfer through.
Right.
And then also we put, acoustic insulation around certain spaces. And I think that's something that someone could consider if they, if they have an office or some room. Typically it's bathrooms. Around bathrooms, you don't hear water or whatever. But
there are a lot of ways to dampen sound from one space to the next space. We don't want to get into the technical aspects, but if people are concerned about sound transmission from one room or upstairs to downstairs, there are ways to deal with that pretty easily.
Yeah. And actually, Maybe one other topic to like add to these categories that we could talk about is like the experts or consultants that are involved in addressing these issues. Like for daylighting and views, it's typically under the architect and their scope of work. Definitely something that any architect's going to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Acoustics could kind of be multiple people, I think, involved. Like I think we actually give a fair amount of advice, especially for remodeling.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of projects right now where clients have said that they've got issues with sound transfer from one room to another. So we do a lot of work with, insulation or doubling up drywall or separating surfaces.
But also too, like our AV consultants
Yeah.
have a lot of experience with that. Like you mentioned, the home theaters and such.
They know all
give
the
us
tricks.
A lot of tricks. That's
Right.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. What about thermal comfort? Obviously, this is a big one.
Thermal is a function of the air conditioning equipment that manages the temperature in the house, but it also does other things. So it's related to other mechanical pieces that go into the air conditioning system, the ventilation system, the humidity control, again, the air conditioning. All those combined work together in tandem to maintain the most comfortable indoor air quality.
Yeah. I think.
And healthy.
Yeah, and healthy. That's right. When you think of the comfort aspect of the air conditioning system, there are things that you want to do and things that you want to avoid. You don't want registers to be placed such that you're getting blasted by cold or hot air at any given time. You shouldn't really ever feel the air blowing on you unless you have a ceiling fan and it's purposeful. But in addition to that, the equipment that we use is variable speed, so it never really pumps air out at a high velocity. But with that, you want the system designed such that there is airflow and circulation, so you don't have any stagnant spots or areas of the home or room that don't get affected by the air conditioning because they could be a different temperature and you would notice that and that would be uncomfortable. When we do have windows and we do have the potential to have these hot spots, that those are being addressed specifically by the air conditioning system or in the winter by the heating system. And then with that, what kind of windows are you using? You want to make sure that your windows have a really good U factor and are providing as much thermal insulation as a window can. Otherwise, the rest of your house could be great. You could have a great heating and cooling system, but having that cold or hot air transfer through those windows, you'll feel that if you're near it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to put a plug in for our design professional community, as we talked about a minute ago, that if the house was not designed with the consideration of a design professional looking at the mechanical systems and the indoor air quality, it's probably going to be uncomfortable. I think we have great mechanical contractors in our community, but there's a limitation to how much they can design into a complex home for air distribution, humidity control, fresh air introduction, filtered fresh air. All those things are very complicated, and it takes an engineering or some kind of licensed professional to design those complex systems for them to work right.
And typically, a mechanical contractor is coming in after the design is pretty much baked and working with whatever the conditions are, whereas a mechanical engineer, designer is going to have some input and maybe say, hey, can we get a little more space here, or can we do this?
Yeah.
Much easier to solve those things before, everything's totally set.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point. Speaking of good points, how about humidity control? This is related, obviously, and same with air quality. I think we could kind of talk about these together.
Yeah.
I mean, humidity is one of the things that we talked about. I've stayed in an old hotel that I was really excited to stay in, but could barely sleep because it was so humid. It was so uncomfortable. So it's super important, especially here in Austin.
Yeah, I will say I wholeheartedly agree with the humidity as being one on the top for me. I've, recently in my renovation, one, we sealed the house up, but two, we installed dehumidifiers, which I've never had in a home before. And every time I open my front door and walk into my house, I immediately am just like,
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
interesting.
It's
I didn't
so
realize.
nice.
Okay. So it's the
Because,
first time
yeah,
living in a house with,
Yeah. And so before, I mean, my house wasn't terrible, but it was not comfortable inside to the extent that it is now. And it really is.
Interesting.
I really enjoy walking into my house.
Yeah.
Especially like when it's
Especially now.
Yeah, when it's like now and it's stupid hot and
Yeah.
uncomfortable outside, and you just walk in and it's immediately just feels great. With that, I mean, obviously, if people are listening from other parts of the country, maybe that's not an issue, but there's humidity everywhere and it needs to be dealt with everywhere. And so if you need, I think that sweet spot of 40 to 60%, I mean, there's a number of health reasons why that's a
Yeah.
really good place for you to be, but also just from a comfort standpoint,
Yeah.
if you can achieve that, then it's one of those ones too where it's like, I noticed it because I installed it and I'm very aware of it, but people that just have it in their house, it's one of those things where it's like you're comfortable and you don't know why.
Right.
Yeah. That's cool.
You know, we don't explain this very well to people, but often we get the question, well, if we're sealing up the house so well to keep the humidity from the outside from coming in, why do I have to worry about humidity inside?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the truth is, you know, people shower.
Because you're alive.
People shower, they cook, they live, they breathe. They create more humidity than would probably naturally exist outside. So it's just going to, and it's not healthy to keep that polluted air inside. So we have to deal with that as a side product of us making the house tighter.
Yeah, especially if, like in my house, you have kids who play soccer and do gymnastics and sweat while they're doing it. There's a lot of extra humidity in the air.
Right.
It's kind of like I've heard like tiny homes. That's like a huge problem with tiny homes. A lot of people have, you know, all kinds of moisture issues because the proportion of like the person and all of the things they're doing in that space is
Boil one
can be
pot of
problematic.
pasta.
Yeah, you're done.
And they typically use mini splits for air conditioning, which typically don't do a very good job
You're
of
right.
removing humidity.
Yeah.
What about, is there anything else that we should touch on in terms of air quality? There's kind of the obvious things about bringing in fresh air and filtering it, but then also just the things that might contribute to poor air quality inside the house.
Well, you know, something that Tim mentioned earlier about odors, specifically like mildew. A well-built home that is air sealed and watertight, you're not going to have potential for mold or mildew to grow in that house, especially if you're keeping your humidity levels in check. And so, one, it's more comfortable because it smells nice, but two, it's more comfortable because you're not inhaling
Breathing
breathing
in.
that stuff in.
Yep.
I mean, that's just one thing, right? But using materials that don't off gas obviously is very important as well.
Right.
And having a proper ventilation system, like we've touched on before, so that you are circulating that air and getting fresh filtered air into your home.
Yeah. I think you said something really important that people, again, don't think about with all this mechanical equipment is circulation. Whether it's ventilation, dehumidification, or air conditioning, some of that equipment kind of needs to be running at a low speed all the time to keep the air moving. Because the stagnant air, even if you had a fairly dry home, if you take a shower and you don't dry out your shower, mildew is probably going to build in that shower because the air is not circulating and removing that humidity from the air from the shower stall. So again, circulation, whether that's ceiling fans or keeping your air conditioner on the lowest setting at all times, or continuous ventilation or something to keep that air churned.
Yeah. But it kind of going with that, in addition to some of these other, you know, there are furnitures and things that off gas, but there are also natural pollutants as well. Like I mentioned earlier, pollen. You want to be able to filter that stuff out of the air
Right.
Before it gets to you.
For sure. Yeah, one other thing on that, and this is kind of goes with the ventilation, or it does, but something that I knew was true but didn't realize is in my last home, I had a gas range and I got this Air Things monitor. We have some around the office that Sean Harris recommended. And it's really cool. You can set it up and it like monitors a few different things, has an app on your phone. And I love cooking and baking. And one evening I cooked something, I forgot what it was, like some kind of stew or soup that was sitting on the stove for a long time. And then I also baked something that night. And my air quality, the spike that I saw from that and no range hood was kind of scary.
Wow.
I had no idea how much of an impact that made on indoor air quality. Till seeing it.
Natural gas, been around a long time. It's very good
Very
heating.
long time.
Yeah. Very good heating and
Thank you,
cooking.
dinosaurs.
Yeah. But it puts off nasty byproducts when it's burned indoors. And matter of fact, some mechanical engineers are recommending we don't even use natural gas appliances anymore. Whole different podcast. But I will say that my opinion is some degree of natural gas cooking is okay as long as we consider ventilation.
Yeah.
Right? As long as you got a good, robust cooktop and some makeup air for that cooktop to draw from, the bad stuff from the natural gas will be taken out pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as it's that vent hood has to be sized properly and located properly as well.
Right.
Okay, so let's move on to the next, which is materials and finishes. Just, I think we could just lightly touch on this one, pun intended.
Well, one thing to me that's very sort of can make or break the comfort of a house is the floor. I mean, that's the thing that you probably touch the most.
Yeah.
Whether you're barefoot or not. But
Unless you're floating in there.
Exactly. So it's like one is sort of the temperature of the floor. If you're on a cold slab, doesn't feel nice, not comfortable. It's going to be difficult to be comfortable in that situation. But also too, just like what is that thing that you're touching? Is it, I don't know. For me, I'm a big fan. I probably am not alone in this, but of just like natural hardwoods, because it does make you kind of feel connected to the earth more so than some of the other materials that there are. But I don't know. That's it for me, I think, is the floor. What is your floor and how does that make you feel? In my house, I'm on a pier and beam, which is raised pretty high. And during the renovation, there was a period of time when we didn't have insulation in the floor. And so it wasn't a cold floor. It was a very hot floor, which is also not comfortable. It's basically radiant heat, which radiant heat is awesome in the winter. I think that's
but not in the summer.
Not in the summer. But a way to make a home very comfortable, I think, is if your heating is through radiant heating in the floor.
Yeah, for sure. That actually makes me think too of like on a pier and beam or on a second floor, the movement that you might experience.
Absolutely.
And like what feels, maybe it's perfectly safe, but it doesn't feel the greatest when you get a
100%.
certain amount of bend.
Yeah.
And so doing things to ensure that there's enough rigidity there and not that flex.
Yeah, and that's really easy for people to specify that they want a certain amount of limited deflection in their floor structure. There's a huge difference in the IRC component and in the International Building Code component of what's required. So commercial buildings are built more rigid than residential buildings, and if we want to solve that problem, that's a very easy one to solve.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just kind of wrap on the last topic of space and proportion. I could speak to just like something I think is really important for maybe not necessarily comfort, but it's like related to comfort, is the idea that certain spaces, like the variety or contrast in sizes and like ceiling heights is important. Because I think when you're with a bigger group of people, it's nice to have more space to spread out into. But then if you're by yourself, sometimes sitting in one big room by yourself just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that.
There was a time when every home we built had 8-foot ceilings. And some of them even had fur downs down to 7 feet in certain parts of the room.
So crazy.
Yeah. And we did it because I think because they were more efficient to heat and cool because there was less volume.
Yeah.
And now almost every home that we see, even new homes, have at least a 9-foot ceiling. And it's not that much more expensive to add a foot of height to a ceiling. And it makes all the difference in the world as far as how you feel spatially within that room.
Yeah, it is important to note, like you said, though, the heating and the cooling is more difficult when you have a
bigger
taller
volume.
ceiling. Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Anything else?
I would like to talk about the lighting design
you
a little
do?
bit
Okay.
because I think to me that's sort of the counterpart to the natural day lighting.
Mm-hmm.
And because obviously you don't have light at nighttime. I think, and this may be a preference thing, but I think you find a lot of comfort in the way that a room is lit, whether you're doing it with lamps and single source things versus overhead, or whether or not you're able to dim your lights to
Yeah.
get that level.
100%.
Can really, I think, affect your mood and your comfort level. I mean, when you watch a movie with the family, you dim the lights.
I would hope.
Yeah, I know, but like it's important. It's a big aspect of being comfortable, I think.
Yeah.
And so
It's nice.
planning that well. I mean, if you can afford to hire a lighting designer, absolutely, I think that's worth the money. But if not, just being at least mindful of how you're going to use a space and give yourself lighting options for any given room so that there's overhead. Maybe there's a sort of single space that you want to light in a specific way. And that's just a matter of thoughtful planning.
Yeah. I mean, even just as simple as having dimmers is such a big, like my current house, I put as many things as I could on. I love everything as dim as possible in the evening.
Yeah.
And I was just talking this morning on site with one of our electricians about he was talking about how he loves dimmers and everything he has on at his house is on a dimmer. And it really makes a big impact. In the evening, it's nice to kind of feel like you can calm down and settle down by dimming everything.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it also, speaking of lighting, is important to talk about lighting temperature.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
the brightness of the light is not only a function of its intensity, but of its color. And the hotter temperatures of lighting, which tend to yield a bluer light, whiter bluer light, are sometimes not comfortable for people. It's harsh,
Yeah,
right?
it is
You're
harsh.
in a lab.
Yeah. Some people, they say, oh, I need that to read, because they need that type of color. But in my house, every bulb, every fixture that I have, I try to use a 2,600 to a 3,000 degree light source. And I love that warm, yellowish amber light.
Mm-hmm.
I know it makes it harder to read, but I like it.
Yeah. Same. That's
Makes
how
me
we are.
comfortable.
That's how we are in my house as well.
Yeah.
And actually, like making sure that light temperatures in the same space are the same color.
That's important.
I was really careful. All of mine are the same. I know what they are. And there was one evening that we some lights went out somewhere and all we could find was like some
bulb.
random daylight bulb. And it's like unnerving.
It is. Yeah, we there's a house down the street from us that they have these huge lanterns on their front porch. And I guess they don't understand that. One of the lanterns, one of the lanterns is lit with a blue light, and the other one's lit with a yellow light. And they've had it that way for years.
Let's go change it tonight. Help them out.
Yeah.
Useful vandalism.
Yes, I like that idea.
I'll give you a bulb.
Anything else? Any closing thoughts?
Well, I think we should I know we've broadly spoken about this, but comfort can mean so many different things, and it is a personal thing, but it should be considered in design and construction. And we've laid out so many different ways and all the different senses that we feel. Our comfort, I think, is we want to be comfortable when we're in our house. I mean, that's a big part of what shelter is.
Right.
And so it's probably overlooked more than it should be, but it's definitely, I think, something that is worth consideration.
Yeah, I think any of these things that we've talked about would be a good starting place to think about, like what are the priorities for your home and for what makes you feel comfortable, and making sure that your architect knows that, because there's probably a design professional, some kind of consultant that could come in and make sure that they can plan for that. You don't want to.
I just thought of another one that we didn't touch on at all. That's privacy.
Oh, yeah. That's why
Right?
I was thinking about that with views.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing to see out, but then also to for people to see in, and thinking about it like at night, you can really see in easily sometimes.
Be on display, and some people don't care, but some people, like
Some
myself,
people,
I don't like to be on display. But so, big glass front doors.
Maybe it's cool, but maybe,
Or at least have the option with some blinds or some drapes or something to be able to change those spaces.
Yeah.
But I think privacy is probably something that brings people comfort.
Yeah.
That's it for another episode of Work in Process. Thanks for listening. If you've got a question, a topic suggestion, or want to start a project with us, send an email to hello@risingerbuild.com.
You can also find us on Instagram at risingerbuild_ATX or on YouTube by searching Risinger Build. We'd love to hear from you.